Okay, for this video, we're going to write an equation of the line that passes through the point 1, -2 and -1, -3. The first thing that we want to do is to find the slope. And the slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, or we can use the change in y over the change in x. The second formula just allows you to do the work in your head and just kind of visualize where you move to, so it's really just kind of a matter of preference of which one you want to use. So with this one, basically our change in y tells us from -2 to -3 how many places did we move and in what direction. Since if we were at -2 on the y-axis and we went down to -3, we would go in a negative direction 1 unit. And then we would ask ourselves from 1 to -1, how many places did we move? So if you think about on the number line, we started at 1 and we went back 2 places to move to the -1. So that's how this formula works. We would have got the exact same thing had we used the formula. So this reduces to 1/2, so our slope is 1/2. Once you have your slope, we're going to use the point-slope form. And with point-slope form, remember that it's y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. And even though it says x1 and y1, that does not mean that we have to use this point. We could use either of the points. The y1 and the x1 just represent any point that it passes through. So you can use either point. It doesn't matter which one you select. I'm going to select the first point, so I'm going to go ahead and use this point right here. And I'm just going to plug it into my formula. So I would have y minus -2 equals 1/2 times x minus 1. So if it asks for your answer in point-slope form, all you would have to do is simplify this to y plus 2 equals 1/2 x minus 1. Most of the time it's going to ask for the SlopeIntercept form. So I'm going to go ahead and move it to SlopeIntercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. Essentially, all this is saying that we want to get y by itself. So, like I said, make sure you read your directions. If it says point-slope form, you would leave it as y plus 2 equals 1/2 x minus 1. Or we could have also said y plus 3 equals 1/2 x plus 1. So if it asks for point-slope form, you would be done. But we're going to go ahead and transfer it into SlopeIntercept form because that's most likely the form that you would be working with the most often. So we would go ahead and distribute the 1/2 in. So I have y plus 2 equals 1/2 x minus 1/2. And then we want to subtract 2 from both sides. Remember that 2 is really 4 halves. So if you just think about it, that 2 is really 4 divided by 2. So this is really -1 minus 4. This is really 4 over 2. So if we add the top numbers, we would end up with -5 halves. So this would be our answer in SlopeIntercept form. So if it asked for SlopeIntercept form, that would be our answer. The other form that they might possibly ask for is standard form. So if it asks you to write it in standard form, then you would do ax plus by equals c, where a, b, and c have to be integers, which means that we can't have fractions. So since we have fractions, what we would do is multiply the whole equation by 2. So I would take and multiply the whole equation by 2 to get rid of the denominators. And when I do that, I'm left with 2y equals x minus 5, because if I take 2 divided by 2, it cancels out for both of those. And then to get it in standard form, we would simply move the x to the other side. So we would have -x plus 2y equals -5. So this would be standard form. Sometimes, depending upon the publisher, They may not let the x be negative and want it positive, so they may also write this as x minus 2y equals positive 5. These are equivalent expressions, so you just need to be able to recognize that those mean the same thing. So if every single sign is different, then that's an equivalent expression. As always, thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please let me know.